Hey everyone, Vincenzo Calla here. Welcome to episode 4 of Let's Discuss Politics. Today, I'm glad to be joined by most of the candidates from my riding of Nepean, the Conservative candidate Matt Triemstra, the NDP candidate Sean Devine, and the Green Party candidate Gordon Kubanek. Professionally, Matt is a public affairs executive, and this is his first time running. Sean is a program officer for Canada's largest public sector arts funder, and he ran in Nepean in 2015. And Gordon is an engineer, high school teacher, and most importantly, beekeeper, and that's the most fun, beekeeper. And he has run federally and provincially for the Green Party 5 times before, and most recently for Carleton in 2019 for the Carleton race. So this panel is with the candidates of the Conservative, NDP, and Green, because unfortunately the Liberal candidate and incumbent Chandra Arya declined their request to join today. So let's get right into it. So the first segment is called Their Stories, where we'll talk about each of the candidates' political histories. So you guys will have a minute each for each of these questions. So we'll start with Matt, Sean, then Gordon. So question 1 is, when did you first get involved in politics? Matt, we'll start with you.
Yeah, great. I actually grew up in a pretty apolitical house. My parents didn't follow politics. We didn't actually track politics. I was pretty insulated from it. And it wasn't until I went to university that I got exposed to political philosophy as a course. And then I was just hooked. I loved the political philosophy course I took, which led to me doing an internship on Parliament Hill, working for an MP, which I loved. Then I went on to work for a couple more MPs. Then I realized, it was a hard life when you were a young staff for lots of hours. And so I got out and started doing public affairs, right? And so that's really, the journey that led me here. And actually, it was COVID, kind of one silver lining was it gave me time and space to think about running, so here I am today.
That's great. So now, Sean, your story. When, and why did you first get involved in politics?
Well, a little bit like Matt. So my parents also, my household was a very apolitical household except for me, and nobody at the dinner table wanted to talk politics. But my grandfather and my uncles in PEI, for them, politics was like a sport. And don't get me wrong, I like sports. But I was always so interested when I was with my older family, listening to them talk about politics and elections and gathering people to do things. And so I started getting intrigued then. Like you said in the intro, I first ran for office in 2015 here in Nepean. I was the NDP candidate, and that really did get me going. After that election, obviously I did not win that election, Chandra did. After that election, I got way more involved in local grassroots politics. I ran for president of my community association. I've been the president then. And it wasn't so much political, but it served the same purpose of engaging with your community and working to get stuff done. And those are some of the things I like a lot about it.
Definitely. And that's the job of an MP. I've talked with many people. I'm going to talk with many more. And the job of an MP really is serving your community. And I like to bring that up when I talk with many people about MPs and politics in Parliament Hill in our system. So Gordon, when did you first get involved in politics?
Since they all did the background, my family comes from Eastern Europe. So because of the sort of communist, what happened there, our family ran away from politics. It was like the devil, basically. Then I became an engineer, and for an engineer and then physics teacher, politics was definitely, irrational. One doesn't deal with the irrational. Then I got very sick. I got a virus which wiped out my heart. I had a few years to think about things and read. I read voraciously about the environment and other issues. And I said, if I ever get better again, I'm going to do something for my kids. And ever since then, I said, I'm going to do this for my kids. And I attached myself to the Greens because they aligned most with my sort of countercultural vibe. And it's been a great ride since 2007.
Wow.
Hey, don't mind me. I'm moving. It just started raining outdoors, so.
Oh, okay. So we'll go next to you. We'll go with Matt first, and then we'll go on to you. So the next question is, why are you running for the position you want to hold, which is the MP for Nepean? We'll start with Matt, then Charlie. That's what your thing says. Sean and Gordon.
Great. Listen, for me, it's really simple, and it's going to steal from Gordon, but I'm doing it for my kids. So I've got 3 kids, ages 9, almost 12, and almost 16. And I think we saw firsthand how hard COVID was on their mental health. And I think we need a government that makes real investments. I'm also worried about their ability to buy their first home. And then more generally, I'm just worried about the middle class getting squeezed, the price of everything going up, and how to make it more affordable, right? So affordability, mental health, and housing are reasons that I am running to be the MP for Nepean.
Definitely. Those are all concerns that we see in a lot of the platforms about those general things that definitely were an issue during COVID. So we'll take a second for Sean. Sean, the question, why are you running for MP for Nepean?
Well, you know what? Like, I thought about this, and I didn't want to use this. I'm not going to focus on the issues on this. I wanted to talk more about what it is at the heart of what I'm doing that draws me. And it's not about any particular platform, any particular campaign, but for me, like the last 6 years since I ran, and for the past 6 years when I've been like working basically a full-time non-paid job serving my community here, I've learned that there's nothing that is more valuable than selfless public service. It has made my life better. It's made my family's life better. It's made my community's life better. And the secret to happiness is loving what you do. And absolutely, I love the fact that public service has such a tangible benefit on your community. But I sleep so good at night, knowing that what I do is valuable and valued. And that's mainly what draws me to it.
That's definitely it. And that's what being an MP is, public service, serving your community. And that's what I've noticed all of you have done over the past years. Gordon as a high school teacher, Matt in public affairs and raising his kids, and you especially during the tornado. We won't go into that, read Sean's story if you're interested, but during the tornado in his community. And that's it. So Gordon, how about you? Why are you running?
I'm going to put a bit different spin. I've done this, as you said, 6 times, and I really see federal politics very different than provincial politics. Provincial politics is nuts and bolts. People can see it. It's their roads, it's their schools, it's their hospitals. Quite frankly, the federal game is more of a meta game. It's a long-term game. It's setting up rules, regulations, policies within which things happen. I think it's much less accessible for the electorate. I actually think my community is the entire country. So at the federal level, provincial is different once again. And so you're dealing with more abstractions. And so you're thinking more future oriented, which I agree is a tough sell. But the Green Party sell is the sustainability and the long haul. It's all about prevention in healthcare. It's all about looking at partnerships. It's looking at not demonizing. So for me, the things that Matt mentioned about the squeezing the middle class, the housing, the interest rates, the food prices, these are all valid. The mental health concerns, opioids, absolutely. But I see all of those as red flags that the way we're living needs to change in a big way. Obviously, the big red flag is the environment, but our social environment is also the environment. And I think we're the only party who's radical enough to do the radical stuff to say, just doing what we're doing now and tinkering at the edges is not going to do anything. So that's why I'm with the Greens. So let's do some radical changes so our kids can live a better life. We want them to.
Definitely. And you all raised some really good points, and we'll bring that next on to serving as an elected official, where we'll talk about your goals to be an elected official. So Matt, we're going to start with you again. We're going in the order. What is your favorite part about the community you want to represent, which is Nepean? One favorite thing about Nepean.
You know what I love about Nepean is that it still has, a small town feel, right? Like you can still go to farmers markets on the weekend. We don't have to go all the way downtown for celebration for Canada Day, right? We've got a great Barhaven Day, Canada Day celebration, and I like that small town feel, and I like that it's a great place to raise families.
Definitely. So Sean, next to you, what's your favorite part about Nepean?
Do you mean like geographic area? No.
Generally.
I mean, I like where I live a lot. I would say that there's 2 things that I love about, there's many things, but 2 things that I love about Nepean. The amount of diversity in Nepean is amazing, and I'm not just talking about economic diversity, but cultural diversity. Nepean truly is a microcosm, and I firmly do believe that diversity is wealth unto itself, and so that's a fantastic thing. But to talk about what Gord was saying there before about how federal politics is a long-term game, the other thing that I love about Nepean, and I realize I'm staring at you and not at the lens there, but the thing that I love about Nepean is the unique opportunity that it presents to us because of its amazing and recent growth potential. Nepean there's no way around it. Nepean is growing like crazy, and it will continue to grow over the next 10, 20, 30 years with Ottawa's new planning targets. And I think that growth awards us a fantastic opportunity to look at the long-term game of how federal policy can be applied to address huge systemic needs right now. And I think Nepean can be a model for that kind of long-term systemic change. Definitely.
And Nepean, like, I've talked to some of my friends and who are like, hey, what's this whole Nepean politics thing? I said, Nepean's just, it's so big, and it might even change into a couple different ridings. We just had, who knows what'll happen in the next couple of years.
It used to be 2 ridings.
Exactly. And it might happen again because Barrhaven's growing like crazy. Plus we have Bell's Corners. We have the earlier part of Merivale before you get into West Nepean. So it's definitely a big area that you can cover. Gordon, what is your favorite part about Nepean?
I'm a high school teacher, and I like the kids. My focus has always been on the future and the kids. I've tutored and taught lots of kids in Nepean, and I've really enjoyed them and their families. And so in terms of growth, I'd like to go from the kids as my focus to the fact that I really think we're growth obsessed. We think growth is like our new God. There's a movement out there called degrowth, and says, we're reaching our limits. Our housing prices are a lot because of limits. We're running out of stuff. I know I have an electric car, but I know there's not enough copper in the world to build all the electric cars we want. So I really want to focus on the quality of life for the kids. I mean, I had a great childhood where I could just go out the door and play and do whatever, and I was never supervised, and I could just be a kid. And now there's all these rules and regulations and this and that, and everybody has to be safe, and just be a kid. And I think the growth at all costs, there's growth that's good and there's growth that's bad, and I'm afraid that we're at the point that we're getting the downsides of growth rather than the good sides of growth. And so I want the kids to be as joyful and happy in spite of things like COVID. And that would be my focus. It's more of a qualitative thing, growth in quality, not in quantity. I do not agree that more stuff and just even more people is helping anybody. We want happier, healthier people, healthier, happier communities.
Well, we know that in Nepean, there's lots of families like Matt,
absolutely.
Matt's kids are coming home. Sean just picked up his kids. Right? So.
Instead of Barrhaven, it's Baby Haven. Absolutely.
Right? Definitely.
It means people have hope. They have hope for the future. This is a good thing.
Are we going to change? Can we change the sign on Greenbank from Welcome to Barrhaven to Welcome to Baby Haven? and what's that going to do?
Yeah, there's a lot of changes there. The BIA will have to fix a lot of signs, like Costco, St. Joe's.
And I have a lot of laughs.
Definitely. Maybe for April Fool's Day one day. So the second question is talking about if you become elected. It's possible one of you could be elected, and then this election, it's definitely a changing election, and Nepean's a hot riding. So the question is, what do you hope to achieve if you're elected as an elected official? So Matt, we'll start with you, and Sean and Gordon.
As a reminder to all of us, we only have 1 minute to answer this question. So I'm going to take a page. I'm going to take a page from Sean's book and not talk about the policies. I talked about it in the intro. I'll say 2 things that I want to achieve. One, I think better representation for Nepean, right? An MP that represents you regardless of who you voted for, right? Politics is already too polarizing. And so, look, I hope I win, but regardless of who you vote for, our job as that member of parliament is to represent their issues. And of course, I'm going to support the Conservative plan. And at this point, if I was Aaron O'Toole, I'd hold it up because that's what he's been doing. But regardless, we have to defend Nepean's interests first. And there's always going to be a tension between defending our local interests in the party, and you need an MP that can live in that tension. And secondly, I just want to bring about, so often what I am trying to do is the perception of how conservatives are viewed, right? And I really want to bring back a compassionate conservatism where we can serve those who need us and they need our help. And I believe we can only do that sometimes if we balance the budget and are good with our money so that we have money to spend on the social services that we need, right? And so those are the two things that I would want to do: better representation for Nepean and showcasing what a compassionate conservative can look like.
Those are two great reasons to, if you hope to achieve. And Sean, what do you hope to achieve if you're elected?
I'm gonna stick with what Matt was saying there and make this as non-political as possible. I would say, rather than any specific goal, policy related, I would like to have an impact on two things that pertain to how people think about politics and politicians. One, we all are suffering from a deeply polarized culture that is partly to blame from a very, very antagonistic political culture itself. Nobody likes the level of toxicity that is waged back and forth in Parliament, and thus we, the political class, are responsible for a lot of that antagonism on the streets themselves. And I will fight to the death to not be that kind of politician. I am so good at relationship building across divides. And the second thing I want to do is, and we hear this at the doors all the time, I want to do something so that the people that I represent don't refer to me as someone that they can never get a hold of. It is, like you said it 3 times, Vincenzo, that we are there to serve the public. And to do that, we have to be available to the public. And to do that, we have to engage with and listen to the public. I know that the first thing I would do in my first 3 months of office is I would reach out to leaders of every community association, of every cultural organization, and I would set up meetings so that they know that they are on a first name basis with their MP. And it's that kind of relationship building that will change the way that people think of federal representatives. And that will change the way that people think about politics in general.
For sure. And I think that people need to have, no matter who's elected, I hope that whoever's elected, people can change the way they see their MP.
Absolutely.
Just as another person in their community that wants to fight for them and do what's right. So Gordon, in 1 minute, quickly, what do you hope to achieve as an elected official if elected for Nepean?
Well, I'd like to destroy my tree hugger stereotype and now put a business slant. I'm an engineer. I've done quite a lot of consulting, in particular with national defense. And so when I worked with managers, it was a question of you manage what you measure. And I think GDP measures the wrong thing. And so the first thing I would do as an MP is put in something like Paul Martin wanted to do way back in the day. He was a really smart guy. And there's something called the Genuine Progress Index, which measures the human well-being rather than the economy. There's been this assumption that GDP means everybody's going to have a better life. In the past, when people were hungry and cold, that was valid. It is no longer valid. It's backfiring on us, and people have more stuff and are more miserable. So we need to have a measure that measures first, and that once we change that, everything else begins to come after that. So we need, that would be my #1 mission: ditch the GDP and get a Genuine Progress Index that focuses on people's well-being, which is what is supposed to be our objective, and just not more money for the banks and stuff. That doesn't make anybody any happier.
Well,
Gord just gave me goosebumps.
Definitely a lot
there
of
we go.
different.
We're all on the same side. I mean, that's the part of the thing, eh? All 3 of us are on the same side. We just have different particular spins on it, but we all want the same thing. Like Matt said, it's for the kids, right?
Definitely.
It absolutely is.
Everybody has, no matter what party you're from, you just all want to create, especially at the federal level, a better future for the next generations. So our last segment is called Politics Are All Around Us, where we will talk about the world of politics around us. And these questions we can go through fairly quickly because they're not too long. So we'll go along with Matt, Sean, Gord. So first, who is or was another politician that inspires you? Matt?
For me, it's easy. It's William Wilberforce, a British MP, devoted his whole life to ending the slave trade. You know, it was such an accepted practice at the time. It took him decades to fight to change it, but he never gave up. So hands down for me, it's William Wilberforce.
Sean?
There you go. Great guy.
I'm the guy who doesn't know who that is, and I got to go look that up. I'm going to name two people.
Sure.
One of them is a politician. Sorry, one of them was a politician. One of them was political. Unfortunately, both of them are no longer with us. The first is former Ottawa Centre MP Paul Dewar. As an NDP guy, it's no surprise that someone like that is inspiring to me. But the thing that drew me so much to Paul Dewar was that there was no filter between his heart and the outside. He was a passionate fighter. He was as transparent as could be. And that authenticity and that genuine honesty drew me. The second person I'm referring to, this is tragic. My riding association was led by a young man named Abel Mengestab. He was definitely a committed young political man here in Nepean. He was killed last year in a vehicle accident at the age of 20. And we're still getting, that's part of the reason why I was so late in the race, that our riding association was thrown into chaos by that. But he was as inspiring a young political aspirant as could be. And he worked on my former campaign, and he was far more inspiring to me than I think I could ever have been to him. And so those are the people that I look up to.
Definitely, and sad story there, but these are the people that we remember, no matter who, whether it's former politician or aide or just someone special that inspires us. Gordon, who is or was another politician that inspires you?
I'm going to grab another character from history like Matt did. Somebody I think that Sean will know is Winston Churchill. My dad grew up in England and the bombs were going overhead. Winston Churchill was the only person in the British upper class who in the 1930s said, Hitler is bad news. The British upper class were in love with Hitler at the time, and appeasement and getting along with the order of the day. And he was the lone voice in the wilderness. He was like the prophet saying, this is going to end badly. This is going to end badly. And I feel like that. I've been doing this since 2007, which is actually slightly longer than Churchill had to rant and be ignored and probably have one drink too many. And so when war is declared, we'll be there. So I'm just tilling the ground, saying what has to be said. And when people realize that we have declared war on nature and nature is going to declare war back on us, which, by the way, includes things like mental health in particular, that's part of that. We'll be ready there. And people, I hope, will turn to us and we'll win the good fight and all will eventually be well. So Winston Churchill's my man.
Definitely. I was reading a biography of Winston Churchill, and he has a very interesting story for sure, from conservative to liberal to conservative. Big story, but yeah. So we're going to quickly go over, maybe this one is, what do you think is an issue that needs to be focused on more? And maybe just say the issue. So Matt?
You want us to say one word, eh?
Well, an issue.
All in there. Mental health needs a greater focus, and it needs a real focus. Definitely.
Sean?
For me, I'm surprised that we're not talking about it more. I think it's just because we're so afraid of it. But if climate change, it's there you go.
Gordon?
I'll say even deeper than climate change, we have to stop worshiping growth. There's no such thing as sustainable growth. Growth is growth. And we have to say, you know what? It's over. The party's over. We have to focus on quality and limits to growth. Otherwise, things will just get nasty. Quality of life first.
Definitely. Quality of life, climate change, mental health, all great issues all big issues that I'm sure everyone can agree on and needs to be fixed. No matter which way we get to it, they need to be fixed. So that's all for today. Thank you, Gordon, Sean, and Matt, for joining me today. It was great. And if you like today's interview, make sure to go check out the other interview with these guests for Top 5 in 5. If you're watching this on the premiere, it'll come out on Friday on Instagram. So to stay updated, make sure to follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at VCalla 2021. Check my website out at vincenzocalla.com. Make sure to like, subscribe, and choose to get notifications here on YouTube. So until the next video, I'm Vincenzo Calla, signing out.